When you were younger, how many of you were afraid of something? Now look around. Many of us have a fear. Well, today, I want to tell you about my fear. But my fear wasn't the dark or spiders. My fear was something that nobody prepares you for, which was death. You see, death changed my life forever. And I want you to know, death is sudden, death is scary, death is change. And very much like change, death is very scary. When I was 8 years old, my mom got diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. And over time, I watched that cancer take over her body. Now, from a young girl's perspective, not really knowing the concept of death or what change looked like, I was so confused, and I was so fearful of everything going on around me, until my dad set me and my sisters down and told us what was really going on. And I was sad for a really long time, and I was angry, and I was really put down. And that's how I viewed death for a very long time. It was a negative and scary situation that could very well happen to me or another loved one around me. And that's the scary thing about death. You never know when it could strike again. 8 years later, I yet again had a horrible experience with death. I lost a close family friend of mine to suicide, but that was not my last encounter with death. 8 months later, I lost another friend to suicide, and just over a month ago, I lost a former teammate to suicide. And I often kept asking myself the same questions, like, why did this happen? What could I have done so this didn't happen? And I have to be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, I still do not have these answers to these questions. But after doing more research, I found out I'm not the only one to ask similar questions when dealing with grief. 18% of people asked if this was normal. 15% asked, how long will this last? 14% asked, what do I do now? And 12% asked, why did this happen? Which got me thinking, how can we find a new way to look at death without a negative perspective? What if we started looking at death more positively? Kind of like we look at a glass cup. Not just any glass cup. I'm talking about a glass cup that some people say is half full, while others say is half empty. What I mean by that is when we look at a glass cup, and like an empty glass cup, we are putting our minds into a locked mindset. And when we look at death the same way, we often look at the world around us with a locked mindset and perspective. This can often lead us to deal with grief using unhealthy habits, like we stop eating, we stop sleeping, we stop doing things that make us happy because we find it so hard to be happy when something so tragic happens to us. And I'm not saying people aren't allowed to feel sad and grieve their loved ones, especially because I know death can be extremely hard to deal with. But when we shift our mindsets away from the negativity, it actually helps us appreciate current circumstances, which can often help us maintain hope and find opportunities and challenges. With the help of this perspective, it can often improve our mental health and happiness and resilience when dealing with negative situations. When we look at a glass half full, we are opening our minds to an open mindset. We're adopting an optimistic, positive mindset, focusing on what is present and possible rather than what is missing. And it often tends to help us create new healthy habits, like seeking support when grieving, establishing boundaries, honoring memories. This could be visiting a special place or looking back at old photos. But there's one healthy habit that I was recently introduced to that is my favorite. This tiny bottle of glitter, we call this a glimmer. A glimmer is an opposite of a trigger. A glimmer does not have to be big. It simply can be something small, like seeing a sunrise or sunset, maybe simply seeing a dog on the street, whatever makes you happy. And see, this is your goal. And it doesn't have to be before you leave here today, but when you're sad, I encourage you to find your glimmer. I want to take it back to what I said in the beginning. I want you to know death is sudden, death is scary, death is change. But it's a natural part of life. When we focus on the people we love and the moments we share, it becomes less frightening and a reminder to appreciate the time that we have. Thank you.